get into the top 10 here a little bit. I put them in order from 10 to 1, with 1 being what I consider to be the most important. There's always room for discussion on the sequence, and I'm sure in some cases there's a few things I could probably put together a top 50 list, but we got to start somewhere. So we'll start with the top 10. Number 5 is don't take shortcuts. It goes back to that administrative note, I think, on, what was it, number 9, if I remember my numbers correctly here. I've seen more organizations go out of their way to not use the system. Do a lot of things that take shortcuts so I can reduce my administrative burden, probably because they haven't done a lot of the things that we talked about. They didn't factor that into the role definitions. They're just assuming this stuff is going to happen. But I'll give you some examples of what I mean by that. Making the very clear statement in your organization that all work is going to be tracked on a work order. I've seen a lot of people spend time trying to minimize how many work orders I have to write. Well, we see things like, well, if the job takes less than 15 minutes, you don't need a work order. If the job doesn't require any parts, I don't need a work order for it. We find more ways to not put work orders in. Or, well, you know what, if you just need some help and it's a reactive job, just put it all against a standing work order. If I had my way, I would never ever use a standing work order, with maybe 1 or 2 exceptions of if you need a work order to track time against lunch and track time against a break. Everything else has to have a work order. If you start to give options on when not to put a work order in the system, it just spirals. It goes from, yeah, well, it was really only 20 minutes, not 15, so that's close enough. Now it becomes a half hour. Now it becomes 45 minutes. And then you start losing the quality of the information in your system. Those short, repetitive jobs are typically what's killing you. Those are what are causing interruptions. You want everything tracked in a work order. Don't take shortcuts. Don't allow shortcuts. You're going to have enough people trying to take the shortcuts when you have a very clear break point that don't give them a way out. I know that sounds a little, dictatorial, but in some cases that is what's required. Set your standards and ensure people are complying with the standards. But again, make sure your processes support that standard, that you're giving people the resources they need, whether that's access to the system, training on how to do that piece that you're asking to do, etc. Another example might be actually making sure that you're managing all your spare parts in the system. Do not allow cubby holes where people keep their own stores and spares outside of the system. The only issue I might see there, it's not really a cubby hole, it's a materials management strategy of free issue types of things where I don't issue them out one at a time, and that's fine, but that's a managed process. Do allow people to set up non-stock parts in your system. We've seen a number of clients that say the only part record you can put in the system is if something that we are stocking. We don't want to clutter it up with things that we don't stock. Well, let me tell you, that's actually the stuff you want in there. It's the stuff that I might use, that I might put on that I'm going to put on a bill of material, that I might need to order in the future, that I may need to use in some fashion. You want a lot to make it very easy for people to put a part record in and associate that record with equipment and not necessarily have to carry stock against it. So don't fall into that trap. The other piece of that is issuing all parts against a work order. Don't take the shortcut of allowing people to issue to an account number or a high-level equipment record or an open work order. Those are not good practices. You lose the granularity, you lose the detail. Again, if you don't have somebody in your system that's actually going to be using that information in the long run, that's typically why people start to take these shortcuts. Well, we don't really use this information, so why am I bothering to collect it? So hopefully you start to see how all this stuff fits together here a little bit. Building, the last one I'll give as an example here would be you want to build detailed, high-quality job plans in your system. That's what is of value to your craftsmen. You want to have good quality work procedures that call out special tools that are needed, details on lockout, tagout, accurate parts lists that are associated with that work order. You want to do things like build those detailed procedures and establish job plan libraries that can be reused and increase the efficiency of your planners. So now they have an 80 or 90% complete job plan for jobs that they do on a regular basis. A pump installation might be an example. You know, we do that pump installation on a regular basis. Now, they may not be all exactly the same, but if I have a detailed job plan that's 80% complete that I can now bring into my work order and then only fill out the details for that specific pump, I can get a lot of planning done. So I want to build those things. I want to intentionally have that stuff done. Don't take the shortcut of just simply saying, well, the craftsman knows how to do the job. I just have a work order that says replace pump. They'll go out and figure this out and plan it, and they'll take care of it. That's simply, now you've just got a minimal tracking. You don't provide any value to the craftsman, and you don't get the detail you need in the long run to make sure that you're getting a repeatable job. It's done to the best practices that you want to have for your organization. Also, make sure that you've got a process in place to improve those job plans. So even as you put the plan out, if there's a problem with it, maybe, you know what, the planner originally put the wrong seal in that plan. You want to be able to get some feedback from the people that did the job, or looking at the closing comments, the parts issued, and go back and improve that plan on a regular basis. But again, your processes have to call that out. You've got to make that an expected part of the roles that are responsible for doing that work. But hopefully that gives you some ideas on what I mean by don't take shortcuts. All of these types of shortcuts have a drastic impact on the quality of the information in your system, the trust that people have in the data that's in the system, and it just quickly deteriorates the value of the system in the long run. Hopefully you found this interesting, some helpful points and comments, and if anybody's got any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.